Welcome to the Law Shit You Should Know podcast. We're here to talk a little bit about the law
and a whole lot about nothing. Every week, we have a new guest to discuss current events, legal drama, and dive even deeper into
the Law Shit You Should Know.
Hi everyone, my name's Elina Santana.
And Leslie Marenco.
And we are here to introduce Law Shit You Should Know. What is Law Shit You Should Know?
It's us talking with our guest about interesting law shit we believe everybody should know.
Right, so today the seat is empty, but usually we're going to have a guest. Most times a lawyer, not always a lawyer though.
Not always a lawyer.
We're going to be talking about the legal side of current events and just important law shit that the public should know. Not necessarily for lawyers, but we learn a lot as we go through these things. Would you agree?
I learned everything going on in the world in this podcast so far, including Trump's indictment, how to not make a potential DUI worse, etc., etc.
I will admit I've learned a lot of pop culture stuff. I think in particular recently I've learned who's getting divorced and some really interesting surrogacy stuff and some condo law stuff. So in general, I think we've educated ourselves probably just as much as the public.
Very much so.
But this is our first episode. So for those of you listening to us, you will not have listened to those yet, but you're in store for some fun, right?
It has been very entertaining.
And so we just wanted to do this short episode to introduce ourselves and who we are, because we actually don't talk very much about ourselves and our practice areas
Not at all.
In the episodes. So we thought we'd start off with that. So we apologize. This episode might be a little more boring than our usual episodes, I'd say. Just a little bit, just a tad. Okay, so like I said, my name's Elina Santana, and I am born and raised in Miami, Florida. I feel like a special unicorn because there's so few of us that are actually
There's like nobody born and raised in Miami, Florida.
Miami's a very transitory city. Everyone's either coming or going, you know? But I was actually born and raised here. I didn't live here forever, though. I lived in New York and I lived in Boston for a bit. But I came back, like all good Northeasterners, to South Florida.
Like all good Hispanic people do.
Hispanic, yes, I am Cuban American. I was born here, but my family's Cuban. And when you are born and raised in Miami, you're more Cuban than American most days. God knows we need a passport to live down here.
And like, don't you feel like you know everybody in town? Like, I feel like Miami is the biggest small town there is.
It's such a small.
Everyone is connected to everyone here.
That's true. Yeah, it is. It is a little bit. It's a world all on its own. Yeah.
It is.
And so so we are in Miami. In case you didn't know that, because we will have listeners everywhere. So
you will know it based on, I don't know, the first 5 minutes of any podcast.
Yeah. So
we throw the Spanglish in there.
We do. So we apologize.
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
We don't apologize.
No, we fucking don't apologize.
So most of the time we speak Spanglish, it's not for important parts of the conversation. We curse a lot in Spanglish, actually.
And this is so funny to me because, like, when I first moved to Miami, I remember, like, within 6 months of, like, seeing my parents or my grandparents, they were all like, what happened to your Spanish? Why are you talking so fast? Like, it was wild to them, like, how bad my Spanish became.
Oh, that's funny.
Within half a year of living here.
So you said when you first moved to Miami, so tell everyone where you're from and your background.
I was born in Port Chester, New York. I came down to Florida, not to Miami, but to Florida in general to go to college. And then I ended up in Miami for my first job because it was hot and everybody in Miami were recruiting. And I thought I'd come down here and literally be here maybe a year or two. And the joke's on me, bro, because it's been 20 years. This December will be 20
December
years.
2023.
And I will tell you, I fucking hated this place when I got here. I thought this is truly the greatest banana republic I have ever. My little sister, I was driving around in my little sister's car and it had like bumper stickers. We're talking about 20 years ago, okay? So we're talking about Bush, Cheney, war.
They're like hanging chads.
There were like, I got my car
you're showing
like
your age.
fucking graffitied on in a Walmart, and somebody wrote in red lipstick "Commie" on my car because my little sister had this like bumper sticker that talked shit about Bush. And it said something about like the war. I don't even fucking remember what it said, but it was just so blatant that like, okay, this is not okay in Miami. Like anywhere else, a normal bumper sticker that might have a political lean on it, like, is just like, no. But in Miami, that's like fighting words, bitch. Like,
oh yeah.
And so this is a level of aggression, believe it or not, that I did not expect. Like, I used to joke, Miami made me an aggressive person, not New York. Like, no. New York.
That's true.
That is absolutely true.
That's true. You know, I when I lived in New York, everyone used to talk about how New York was such a terrible place and everyone was mean in Manhattan. And I loved living in Manhattan.
Absolutely.
Everyone was like on it. And yeah, they were in a hurry, but they're in a hurry to get someplace and do something.
But they're not straight up nasty.
No.
They're not straight up in your face about dumb shit.
I definitely had more doors held for me in New York and Boston than I ever have had in Miami.
Absolutely. So Miami has been an interesting place, but it grows on you. I think as anybody that moves here, you really start to feel like, where else would I go? I mean, and you just assimilate to the culture. And I mean, I'm Hispanic, right? So it was easy for me to assimilate. Like everybody jokes, oh, you're from Miami? No, I'm not. Oh, you went to Lourdes? No, I didn't. Like, I assimilated well, right? Like, I could play it off. But it does grow on you. It does. And it'll be 20 years December. I've never thought of this until you just asked me, by the way.
20 years is a long time.
I moved here December
Miami.
03.
No, yeah, it's, I don't know if it grows on me. And it's
Oh, shit.
I'm not going to lie. I've never been a fan of South Florida, even though it's home. I've never felt at home here. You know, for me, I was at home in Manhattan. I was only there a couple years, but that's what feels like home to me. And I still run away every moment I get to get into the city.
Hey, I hear like New York's getting cheaper as Miami gets more expensive.
I hope
like
that's
maybe
true.
we could buy some shit.
I definitely will.
Back in the city.
I mean,
and,
long-term plans, retire in the city somewhere. I don't know how that's going to happen because you need to be a billionaire, but but nevertheless, that is the long-term plan. But yeah, so Miami is home. You know, for me, I graduated from law school in 2009, which was the big law firm crash year, right? Everybody's offers got rescinded. And so I ended up back home completely against my will because it was the only place I could live at home for free. Into my childhood bedroom I went. And that's how I came back to Miami. And I got lucky enough that I got a job right away, unlike many of my friends and colleagues that year. But I got a job right away doing what I loved, which was immigration. I already knew that's what I wanted to do. I had worked through law school.
How did you know you wanted to do immigration? How did that come about?
So, you know, I
Truly, because I did an internship doing VAWAs.
Yeah.
And after like 3 months, I was like, oh, fucking never. Never. Like, there's no money to be made here. What am I doing
There's
here?
absolutely money to be made.
In VAWAs?
No,
like,
just in immigration in general. But
we'll have an episode on VAWAs. But
we will. No, you know, I'm an immigrant family, grew up in Miami.
Yeah, but you're like Cuban.
No, hold on. But so, you know, I actually looked this up. 73% of South Florida is either foreign born or first generation. Did you know that?
That makes sense.
I mean, like, there's
That
no
makes
one you
sense.
can basically talk to in Miami that hasn't been affected by immigration
Sure.
in some way, whether personally or parents or their story. People like me born here who are still so a part of the immigrant experience, even though I'm not
Absolutely.
actually an immigrant, which is crazy. But
No, but first generation immigrants, especially because, yeah.
I grew up listening to, and in
yeah.
South Florida, you know, and now I think South Florida is a lot more diverse. But when I was young, it was just all about the Cubans, right? Like my family, the same generation of Cubans, and it was a very Cuban city. And I grew up listening to people talk about Havana and Malecón, and I was like, I need to go see this Malecón that everybody keeps talking about. And I did. I drove my parents crazy until they took me, finally. My parents had not been back since they were very, very young.
And they allowed you to go.
We went together.
I will be
My parents
fucking
took me.
disowned if I step foot in
No,
Cuba.
my parents
I
took
promise
me.
you.
My parents took me when we were teenagers. When I was a
Oh, that's
teenager,
awesome.
It was my very first time ever in Cuba, and they had not been back since they left. My dad left in 64, and my mom left in 70, I think. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that sounds about 69, 64 and 69. So they hadn't been back since the 60s, and they took me when I was a teenager. But it was because I harassed the crap out of them until they finally took me. Because it's really hard to grow up listening to something and not having at least seen it, you know. So anyway, so they did take me. It was very anachronistic, and that's a whole other story for another day. It was a very happy, sad kind of trip, right? But it was nevertheless super interesting to me. So anyways, I always had this concept of we're an immigrant family and had some interest in immigration. But I wanted to teach. I actually wanted to be a teacher. And I did. You see, you didn't know about
This is
you didn't know
good.
this
Worse
about me.
and worse. From immigration lawyer to teacher. Oh,
I wanted to be a teacher. That's what I wanted to be.
Oh,
And
God, of who?
when I was at NYU for my undergraduate, I actually worked part-time at a high school teaching ESL classes. So I taught English as a second language.
God.
I did. I taught ESL classes.
Abort.
It was a high school, so I had high school aged I say kids, but I was in my early 20s and they were like late teenagers. It was like seniors and juniors. So we were basically like 3 or 4 years apart. So almost my age, right? But I taught ESL, English as a second language. And I realized very quickly that I loved the immigrant communities. I had a fascination with the whole culture of it all, and I loved the kids and the school, and I was super enthralled. The sociologist in me, which is what I was studying, loved the idea of identity and for first generation and immigrants and all that jazz, and I spent way too much time studying all that jazz.
This is all starting to make so much sense.
I know. I'm a huge people person, and this just spoke to me in ways that I cannot describe at my core, and quickly learned that I loved all of these communities and find this all intellectually fascinating, and I absolutely hated teaching and thought it was boring as fuck. So, so I was like, not meant to be a teacher, zero patience for actually teaching. I like want to sit and converse with these people, but really don't want to teach them shit.
A whole lot of like chatting, not enough teaching was happening in this class.
Yeah, no, I was not meant to be a teacher. And so at the time I was double majoring in sociology, like I said, and Spanish literature. So half of my undergraduate studies were done in Spanish. Spanish has always been my first language in my house and everything else. And
these two degrees just seem like poverty is waiting to happen.
I get it. So anyways, law school was kind of my backup plan always. Like maybe I'll go to law school. And what I realized was I really needed to be a little more engaged intellectually in what I wanted to do, or I was going to be really bored most of my life. And so I went to law school, which was kind of the backup plan as soon as I realized I
Which is very intellectually engaging,
right.
absolutely.
And so
always.
It did turn me on in an intellectual way, right? And so I already had this interest in working with immigrants and working with especially the Latino Hispanic community. And so right away, my first year in law school, I volunteered at a nonprofit on the weekends because they don't let you work your first year in law school. I volunteered at a nonprofit. I did a lot of asylum cases, actually, back when I had no business doing asylum cases because I didn't know shit about asylum at the time. But I spoke Spanish.
And at this, better than nothing.
Yeah, well, at this nonprofit at the time, I was one of the few Spanish-speaking volunteers. So they had me doing a lot of sworn statements with asylees, and I instantly fell in love with it. Like it really married my interest in culture and people and communities with the intellectual challenge that actually working in the law brought me. So for me, it was just this perfect mix. And so I was very fortunate that right away I was able to figure out what I wanted to do for a living. I think most people go to law school just having absolutely no concept of what kind of law they're going to practice, and then they 100%. Just kind of
or why they're even in law school.
Or why they're even in law school, and they kind of fall into whatever law falls in their lap with their first job, but that wasn't my experience at all. And so I knew that's what I wanted to do. By my second year in law school, I was working at a part-time at a law firm doing business immigration cases, actually. And that's what I did for part of my second year and part of my third year, and eventually graduated, right? Had no job, came back home, and got a job at an immigration law firm right away, too. And so now, as you know, I'm in business for myself. Immigration law is all I do. And I really focus my practice on the litigation and family side of that. So I do a lot of removal defense for people who are actively being removed from the United States. We work on what I call family and marriage-based residency, which is everything from people petitioning for their loved ones, whether that be a parent, a child, a sibling, someone they're marrying, fiancé visas, things like that. You always joke about my tagline, which is, we help binational families who found love across borders live in the U.S. together. So yes, I'm all about love.
It's all about the love.
It's all about the love in my world. But that's what we do. And a lot of perdones, waivers, for those who don't speak Spanish, for anyone who
Is
got
that
them.
really the trend? Perdone?
Perdón. Lots of perdones. The famous
Like,
perdones when my immigrant clients do something that gets them in a little bit of trouble. Whether that be criminal stuff or entering illegally. We do a lot of that work. And a lot of asylum, which I've continued to do for many years now. And along those lines, temporary protected status, DACA, basically everything on the humanitarian side. I actually don't do at all very much of the business stuff. Our firm does it with one of our counsels. But so I truly work very B2C. I deal with clients and people all day long. And I've had my own firm now for 9 years. It's going to be 10 years soon, which is crazy. And so being a business owner has brought its own fun challenges. We have a great episode coming up on that. We had a good guest talking about sales and thinking about business, but that'll be another day.
That was a great episode.
And so that's what I do. That's me in a nutshell. What about you? Why'd you go to law school, Leslie?
Oh, wow. So, I mean, I'm not sure why I went to law school. That's something I ask myself every day. But to go a little bit before that, I guess, I am not the greatest people person. I am not, what were all the things you said? You love community and people and, well, I love none of those things.
None of my soft science skills.
I love math and data is what I love. Blame it on my dad who forced me to do all my math homework and extra every night, I guess, because I studied something like that in undergrad. So I had no intention of ever going to law school, but then I come to Miami after undergrad and I get really bored here. So I was a civil engineer for several years, and that is a very, very regimented career. And so it's a very like 7 a.m. to like 5 p.m. We don't work Fridays, and I'm a little bit hyperactive. So that's pretty much the reason I ended up looking for either a master's program, an MBA. I had a professor tell me I should go to law school in engineering, and that always kind of stuck with me, and I thought the classes looked really interesting, and that's how I ended up in law school. I mean, I definitely did not. I think you're one of the rare people I've ever spoken to that truly kind of knew, like, hey, this is something I would like to do, and inside of this like umbrella of like legal stuff, I want to do this immigration and this type of immigration, because in every practice area there are absolutely, you can drill down to the nuance, and you're like literally one of the only people I could think of. I've been a lawyer for 12 years, right? We've been lawyers for
I'm
about
on 13 now. Yeah.
Are we on 13?
14. I'm in my 14th year, which means you're in your 13th year.
Stop talking.
14th year of
We're
practice,
definitely
which means you're
aging
13.
ourselves here.
Yes, we are.
No, we graduated the same year. Like I was a night
Yep.
student, so I graduated in
Yep.
December. You would have graduated in
the
May,
spring.
right?
Uh-huh.
So same shit, 6 months apart. But like, I've never met, like even while I was in law school, I remember like talking to other people in law school thinking I must be the only asshole here that really has no plan of what the fuck am I doing. I'm still working full time during the day and kind of doing this at night and seeing if I like it or not and whatever. But then I come to realize everybody in law school is like lost in space.
No,
like,
100%.
They have no concept of why they're there, why they're not.
That's absolutely true.
And I was very surprised by that. Like I remember thinking that was just something that I was kind of going through, and no, that is not the case.
No, I absolutely was one of the rare few I remember who knew what she wanted to do before I kind of even stepped foot there.
Yeah.
And then only solidified it after being in law school for a year or two.
Right, and didn't even like try it and go, oh fuck no, never
I
mind,
loved
just
it.
kidding.
I loved
Like,
it,
because
yeah.
there are a few people like that are like, oh, I really want to do. I did hear like a few like, oh, some international, I don't know what bullshit, and then they're like, oh no, this shit sucks, right? Like this is all either very complicated arbitration or whatever it is, and they were more thinking on the transactional side or what have you, right? So usually your first job or your first internship or your first clinical experience goes, oh, just kidding, we got to fucking pivot. So I did see that a little bit, but honestly, I was very lucky, I think, in the sense that I fell into this area of law and it works so well for me.
Well, you haven't told anyone yet
So
what area
I am an
it is.
estate planning and asset protection attorney as of 9 years ago, I guess. I've also had my own firm. I have not known Elina like for 12 years. We just have like parallel tracks of life, which is a little weird because we graduated around the same time, started our firms around the same time without knowing each other.
Yep.
But I truly fell into this area of law, and I had a partner many years ago tell me like, hey, Marenco, there are two types of people that like estate planning. There are the people that think of estate planning on the family side, like, oh, I get to sit with grandma and grandpa and like talk about the family, and and there are people that like to structure shit. And I am absolutely a person that loves to structure shit under the parameters of what's better on the tax side, what's better on the asset protection side. And I'm a data person at the end of the day. And I love the kind of, you call it the best thing ever, the puzzle piecey exercise.
That's what I call it.
Of like how to do this to accomplish what people want.
Yeah.
And it is a very intellectual exercise that you have to go through to fit in
That's one of the reasons I fell in love with it. Here's a client, figure out how to make this, what is it? The square peg go in the round hole, that concept.
Because sometimes what's good on one side sucks in the other, and you got to figure out what's more important for the client and whatnot. But I absolutely fell into this area of law, and lucky for me, because I do think it suits what I love very much. And I worked for great law firms before I started my firm. And now it's almost been 9 years. God damn it. I don't know where the hell the time has gone, because like she mentioned, having your own firm is a whole different ball game than when you think you have like figured out like, oh, I'm a rock star fucking associate. Great. I'm a great lawyer. A lot of good that's going to do you when you open your own firm, when you got to figure out, as our guests will talk to you, sales, marketing, metrics, production, systems, and everything else, and everything comes at you. So,
and I think that's true of every business owner, though, not just lawyers. But I think we're particularly bad at it in the legal field.
We are not good at it.
No, we're not good. I think we are trained, and in law school you're trained, right? This is all very intellectually satisfying. And what's that movie, the baseball movie, the Field of Dreams? You know, if you build it, they will come. And if you are such a fantastic lawyer, the clients will just fall from the sky because you're so wonderful, you will attract them. And I think it's very humbling when you open up a law firm.
Everything about having your own law firm is very humbling.
It's very humbling. You realize right away, nope, nobody cares how brilliant you are.
Not at all.
But anyways, so that's a whole other,
That's going to be a fun episode. I promise you.
We have a great episode on that.
And there'll be other episodes that are that kind of like business related that kind of wrap back to the law. But that's kind of my story. And that's how I ended up in this area. And I absolutely love doing estate planning, asset protection on the tax side. But it suits my personality very well.
Yeah. So today we've talked a lot about who we are and our backgrounds, but we don't really do that in our episodes. We're not going to be doing that at all, actually. So today's a little special. We're always going to have a guest, and we're usually focused on what that guest's expertise are and the law shit you should know about their particular practice area. So tune in. We have a lot of fun. We curse too much. So if you're easily offended, don't listen.
Don't listen to this episode. Don't listen to this podcast.
Nope. We're a little tongue-in-cheek. And I think that's a good summary of what we do. And we try to keep it fun. So even though some of these topics can be quite heavy, I don't think we cover them in a very heavy way. Actually.
I don't think we do at all.
And you'll be full of fun, interesting facts to give your friends. You will seem brilliant. And you can...
And if I have any little footnote, it's like I'm so much of a workaholic. I truly don't know a lot about what's going on in the world as far as current events. So the simplest things to me are like, what? And that is absolutely not scripted. That is absolutely true. I have learned more on this podcast about what the hell is going on outside of this office than from anything else. So,
I think that's true. This podcast really is just a way to keep Leslie informed on a weekly basis.
In a way. And I've learned so much about Elina on this podcast that I did not know after being friends with her for 9 years. That is also very fascinating.
Have we been friends 9 years?
Not really, no. Because we started the firm and then we met each other.
I think we really
so maybe been
2014.
No, is it 7, 8 years?
Yeah,
7, 8 years?
Yeah.
Well, I've learned more in 3 months than in 8 years, for the record.
So anyways, so that's it. We're not going to keep you much longer with the intro episode. So we'll start by saying follow us. Follow us everywhere. I'm supposed to point. I think, point.
Instagram,
the
YouTube,
Tickety Talk. I'm sure we'll be on Tickety Talk.
The Tickety
That's TikTok
Talk
for all you non-geriatric millennials.
I'm a Zennial. Thank you very much.
We're almost the same age, but somehow I am a millennial and you
are
not.
Yeah. These 2 years that we have apart are like a world of a difference.
She's not even a real Zennial.
I'm really not.
No, you're not. Whereas I'm very much a millennial.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so that's what we are. Follow us everywhere. Enjoy. And we do have an email account, lawshityousshouldknow@gmail.com. If you want to send us hate mail or love mail, that's where you can reach us.
Don't waste your time. Nobody cares.
I will read
Nobody
it.
fucking cares.
I promise I will read it. I don't know
you have too
her.
much time on your hand. Do something better.
You write us emails, you have too much time on your
You
hands.
have way too much time on your hands. You're writing emails to a bullshit podcast.
Well, thank you all for listening, and we look forward to teaching you some more law shit you should know. Have a great day.